Very good evening and welcome to our listeners on Manx Radio AM 1368 and digital to the latest edition of Saturday Sport Classified here on Manx Radio, bringing you all the results and analysis from today's football, rugby and hockey fixtures across the Isle of Man and beyond. Let's start then tonight and get straight into the classified results across the different sports. We'll start then with Manx football. In the Canada Life Men's Premier League, St Mary's 2, St George's 3. Ayr United 6, Braddon 1. St John's United versus Laxey postponed due to a waterlogged pitch. Rushen United 1, Ramsey 2. Peel 7, Union Mills 0. Douglas Royal 1, Morown 4. In DPS Limited Division 2, Governors Athletic 2, Castletown 3. Foxdale 2, Onken 2. Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys 3, Maloo 2. Gyms 2, Douglas and District 2. Douglas High School Old Boys 7, Pulrose 1. In Canada Life Combination 1, Braddon versus Ayr United postponed due to a waterlogged pitch. Laxey 1, St John's United 2. Ramsey 3, Rushen United 2. Union Mills 3, Peel 1. Morown 7, Douglas Royal 1. In DPS Limited Combination 2, Douglas Athletic 5, Michael United 2. Castletown 3, Governors Athletic 1. Onken 8, Foxdale 2. Maloo 0, Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys 11. And Douglas and District 7, Gyms 2. Turning now to rugby. The Regional 2 Northwest. Birkenhead Park 29, Douglas 10. In the counties for ADM Lancs Cheshire Division, Blackpool 14, Vagabonds 27. In the Ravenscroft Manx Shield, Ramsey 64, Isle of Man Barbarians 31. And now the results in Manx hockey. The Mixed Cup semi-finals. Valkyries A3, Castletown Celts 3. Valkyries win 5-3 on penalty strokes. Vikings A3, Backers A4. In the Mixed Plate semi-finals, Valkyries C6, Castletown Camags 1. Valkyries B 0, Castletown Southerners 1. In the Mixed Bowl semi-finals, Valkyries D1, Vikings D3. Backers Colts 1, Ramsey Ravens 1. Backers win 3-1 on penalty strokes. And the Mixed Under-15s League, Ramsey Rogues and Rascals 1, Backers A 11. Backers B 3, Castletown Sabres 2. Castletown Sharks 3, Vikings 1. And Valkyries 5, Harlequins 3. Those are your classified results in Manx football, rugby and hockey across the Isle of Man today, Saturday the 4th of November 2023. Well, now let's take a look at what has been another busy day in Manx football. As we mentioned before, there were just a couple of games postponed, but thankfully the vast majority of fixtures went ahead on Ireland today and plenty of entertaining and riveting results to take a look at. So we'll bring him in for the first time this evening. Good evening, Tony Mepham.
Good afternoon. Good evening. It's still afternoon, Rob, but pretty dark out there. But yeah, we've been very lucky, and I have to say, because we judged it at lunchtime, just talking about Foxdale's pitch, held up really well. So credit to everyone who's worked on that pitch. Few slide tackles going in there, but yeah, we've got away with it quite good today with just that Braddon game and also the St John's game being lost due to the weather.
And they'll be rearranged in due course as well.
Yeah, well, just to give you the heads up, we've sort of changed it a little bit this year, and that St John's and Laxey game will be rearranged a fortnight this Tuesday because it does have sort of ramifications for the Railway Cup, so we need to get those out of the way, and it's an opportunity there because St John's have got floodlights.
Very well. Well, let's take a look at the games that went ahead today. We'll start the Canada Life Men's Premier League. All games kicked off at 2 o'clock. The earlier kick-off times now in place for the next few weeks after the clocks went back last weekend. One of them was slightly earlier, and that was at 1:45. It was St Mary's versus St George's, and St Mary's were looking to keep the pressure on Ayr United at the top of the table today. They came up against St George's side who hadn't won since mid-September in the league. That all changed today, though. St Mary's 2, St George's 3, Tony.
Yeah, that's a great result, and we'll get a match report a few in a minute. But certainly today, St George is a lot stronger squad-wise. Johnny Myers wasn't here to witness it. Sorry, Johnny, but maybe it might be worthwhile him staying away and going to watch Everton a few more times, because they've just slipped up as well. It's finished up 1-1. But Richard Wynne got the first one for St George's. Jacob Crook got a goal, and Connor Birch as well. But for St Mary's, they had a right good go, didn't they? In the end, Therese Thompson got the first, and Nathan Halsall, I think, scored from a free kick. What do you think of the game, Rob?
Well, taking a look at it, St George's actually started off pretty lively, got that first goal in the 4th minute through Richard Wynne. Jacob Crook, a big part of that. His shot palmed away by Steve Colston just into the path of Richard Wynne, who was in their poacher's goal, I think it's fair to say, from just a couple of yards out and into an empty net. After that, possession-wise, it was all St Mary's. It just seemed as if St Mary's just couldn't quite get that final ball, that little bit of quality in the final third, because Ben Wilkinson was largely untested throughout the first half. And then St George's, they managed to hit St Mary's on the break as the hosts just kept chipping away. Sam Kane releasing Jacob Crook through on goal, who was a nightmare for that St Mary's defence down that left-hand side all day. Crook in on goal up against Collister. Collister managed to make the save, kept himself big, but just for the fortune of Jacob Crook, a misfortune of Steve Collister, it fell right back into the feet of Jacob Crook just to roll it into an empty net. And then to the second half, St George's, they started the second half as they did the first. Connor Birch getting in on the action. Morgan Naylor with a free kick from the left into the 6-yard box. Fell to the feet of Connor Birch, who almost sliced the half-volleyed effort, and it went beyond a rooted Steve Collister into the goalkeeper's bottom right-hand corner. There was some quite big protests, particularly from the St Mary's dugout, as to whether it was a high boot from Connor Birch on that effort. The referee waved the protests away, and the goal did stand. But just a few minutes later, St Mary's, they just found their rhythm a little bit going forward. Neat little interchange around the St George's penalty area, and then a finely weighted through ball to the onrushing Tyrese Thompson, who up against Ben Wilkinson, who'd had very little to do up until that point. Thompson with a very composed finish into the bottom corner as well. That led St Mary's back on the charge again. A lot of the football was a game played in the St George's half, and a Nathan Halsall free kick with around 15 minutes to go out on that right-hand side. Curled it in left-footed. Was it a shot? Was it a cross? It's certainly plenty of players attacking it in the 6-yard area, but it seemed to go right over the top of them, and Ben Wilkinson, maybe a little bit unsighted, just couldn't react in time as it sailed past him, just squirmed under him and into the bottom corner. St Mary's, they kept hammering away, had a couple of half chances towards the end of the game, but St George's, they've hung on for what is a big scalp for them in their battle to stay away from that relegation zone. Tony, for both St Mary's and St George's, we'll start with St Mary's actually. It was defeat for them today. 2 big games coming up against Corinthians and Ayr United in the next couple of weeks. What do you think that means for them going into the next 2 games? What will Alex Harrison have been saying to his team after that?
I think, to be fair, St Mary's have played really well this season, so I don't think Alex will be too hard on them, because, it's football, it's sport, and some days it goes for you and some days it doesn't. Today St George's were a lot stronger. Let's have a look at the squads first, because Sean Quay had come back into the squad. You've got Connor Birch, who's been missing for a while. Jacob Crook could play. You've got Ben Wilkinson, and you rightly say that he didn't really have much to do, but he made a worldie, didn't he? He made a world
in the last few minutes. It was James Murphy. It was a cracking strike. I was on the perfect angle to see it. Looked destined for the top corner, and Ben Wilkinson, not quite sure how he reached it, but tipped it round the post. It was a fine save and kept St George's ahead.
Well, that's it. But if he hadn't made that save, then it would have been 3-3. Possibly, and points sort of shared, but that 3 points is so valuable for St George's, because when you look at the bottom 4, you've got Moran, who won today, so they go on 6 points. You've got also Braddon there, who were on 6 points today. Douglas Royal losing heavily to Moran has cost them dearly, and those 3 points for St George's just lifts them out. And I always say, if you're going to survive in this league, you need to be about 14, 17 points. So that's a good start for St George's. But when I look at sort of St Mary's, I think they've done well, as well with St George's. It's a real battle for them, and there's a few people out there who keep having a little dig about them. Okay, they've been the standout club for about 15 years solid. This year they're having to fight the trenches, if you like, and they've tried so hard. They've only got one team to pick players from. They're working with a small squad of like 14, 15 players. And when Chris Bass comes back and plays, they're going to be even stronger there. And it's just get them out of this danger zone that they're in at the moment. And then next year, hopefully, they can regroup with 2 teams. But, they're 2 standout sides when you look at the history of Manx football. And today they've had a competitive game.
Speaking of Chris Bass, I actually did have a very brief conversation with him. I arrived at the bowl earlier.
How was
he mentioned that he was in the dugout, and he said that he believes that if all goes to plan, he could be around 5 or 6 weeks away from returning to fitness. Obviously, completely depends what happens over the next few weeks, but he'd be a big addition to come back. And of course, Kieran McNulty not playing for St George's today either. Okay, let's move it on. Let's look up to the north of the island. Ayr United were looking to continue their perfect start of 8 wins from 8 up at Andreas playing fields today against the newly promoted Braddon, who after a promising start have had some tough results in recent weeks, and it was a tough outing for the visitors today. Ayr United, a commanding display in front of goal. They remain top of the Premier League. Ayr United beating Braddon by 6-1.
And let's go with the star of the show, and that's Danny Oram. 4 goals for him today. Absolutely flying, and I don't know who won Player of the Month for October, but he must have been sort of knocking on the door because he tremendous, and it's carried on again today. Sean Kelly got one as well, and Jamie Callister always pops up with the odd goal. So really good performance for them. That's 9 out of 9, 27 points, and I think that puts them near enough in the Railway Cup. I know on goal difference I think they can be taken out of it, but absolutely brilliant for a team that at the start of the season everyone was tipping Laxey, looking at Ayr a little bit. St Mary's were looking good, and it's going really well for them. But Joe Burrow's got that goal for Braddon, but when you're playing against a team like Ayr are playing at the moment, it's very difficult to deal with, and that's what's happened for Braddon today.
Well, the game out at Mullinachloe, St John's United and Laxey, that was postponed due to a waterlogged pitch to be rearranged in due course. Then down to the south of the island, Russian United facing high-flying Ramsey. And Ramsey coming out on top today by 2-1 in what was a bit of a landmark moment in recent years, because it marks Ramsey's first win at Russian United since 2014. 9 years, Tony.
Yeah, that's mega, that. And, Ramsey have been sort of there or thereabouts over the last 2 or 3 years. I think Anthony Cooper and the boys down there have done a great job in building a team together and developing players, because a lot of them are good young players. One today, Charlie Higgins scored. Dylan Pickles got one as well, so 2 promising players. Charlie speaks for himself, he's tremendous. And an own goal for Russian to sort of keep them in it. But that's Russian's bit of a problem at the moment, is scoring goals. And today they've only got a goal because Ramsey got an OG. But it keeps the pressure on at the top. Ramsey now have played 9 for 22, and they're closing in on qualification for the Railway Cup as well. So it's brilliant to watch.
Very well, then we move out to the west of the island again, and Peel up against Union Mills. Union Mills, a checkered season so far, had some brilliant results mixed in with some that maybe they wouldn't have quite liked so much, and Peel with a bit of a job on their hands to defend this Premier League title that they won last season. Well, they've gone the right way about it, certainly today. A big result for them on home turf. They've beaten Union Mills by 7-0.
Yeah, and I think the big problem is for Union Mills is just trying to find that form that they had last year, and something's missing, and I'm sure they'll get to the bottom of it. But certainly Peel, they are going to find it hard, Rob, to defend. And today, just a bit of a report on it, was Lee Gale with 3 goals, 1 from the penalty spot. Taylor Andrews with a couple again, so that's 5 and 2 for him. Paul Whitehead, name on the score sheet. Thomas Brown as well. But 3 goals in 3 minutes, 25-28. That's what caused the damage, and accounted for Union Mills. And Peel could easily have double figures in the first half alone. The attacking play is as good as Colin Moore's seen at Peel for some years, since Ashley Webster. I think it'll be, it says Josh Kelly, and probably Lee Gale. So that's some accolade for the Peel forward line. And as I said to you at lunchtime, Thomas Brown's quick, he's tricky, he'll come good. Paul Whitehead is so strong, he helps things. And Lee Gale, since he's concentrated on his club football, I think he's got his mojo back. And Lee Gale's one of the best players on the Isle of Man, and he's proved it again today with 3 goals.
And the remaining game, the Canada Life Men's Premier League today, was a big one in terms of toward the bottom of the table. The bottom 2 sides meeting, second from bottom Douglas Royal hosting Marown, and the visitors with a big 3 points today at Ballafletcher, beating Douglas Royal by 4-1, Tony.
Well, it's huge because when you look at the league table now, Douglas Royal go bottom, and they've played 9 for 5, and there's 2 teams just above them, and that's Marown on 6 who've played 10, and Braddon who've played 9 for 6. So yeah, it was a big statement for Marown, and did see this one coming. And good luck to everyone as well, because I think it's Marown's Melia tonight in the Crosby. So if you want something, it's always veg in it. carrots, spuds, whatever. It's all there to be had. But today it was Connor Gilbert with one. Carl Hartman got another. Tom Redmond got his name on the score sheet, and a special goal as well, Lewis Brew, because his dad's the manager, puts a lot of time in. It means everything to him, that club. And he scored a goal today, but James Kellett who got the goal for Douglas Royal.
Could be a lively night in the Crosby.
I think it could be with the Combi winning as well.
Indeed, and we will get to that result in a little bit. We'll move on to DPS Limited Division 2. Governors Athletic facing Castletown over at Colby today, and Castletown with ambitions to try and keep tabs on some of the other top teams around them in the push for promotion. They've done it today, but only just about against a very spirited Governors Athletic side today. It finished Governors Athletic 2, Castletown 3.
Yeah, that was close, and certainly today Nathan Cardy's had an eventful day because he got a goal and then got a red card. So they're going to be missing out on him, which is a shame because he's been in good form of late. Alex Crawley got his name on the score sheet, and Ash Egan just signed for Castletown, got the third one. So keeps the pressure on at the top of the table. We'll come to Foxdale and Onken in a minute. But Governors, good battle. We haven't got the goal scorers. If you could text us through, please, 166 177.
Yes, please. Any scorers, do send them in. 166 177, as Tony has rightly pointed out. Now we move over to Billygoat Park, and a fixture that many people had an eye on today as two of the Division 2 promotion hopefuls met. Foxdale, unbeaten start to the season, top of Division 2, up against an Onken side who have at times been free-flowing in the goals they've been scoring, but still trying to make up ground on their hosts today. Tony, this was the game you were at, and I understand it had a great attendance as well, and was an entertaining affair for those who actually made the journey to Billygoat Park, because it finished Foxdale 2, Onken 2.
Yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. And the first half, Onken deserved it because Leo Fox it was who got the first goal. And it was a good cross in from the left-hand side. I think it was just Charmer that, not Charmer that got it. It was Jackson Gatt who got the goal. He crossed, the ball crossed in. Leo Fox was there. Penalty spot. Hit it with his left foot and it went past the goalkeeper, couldn't do much about it. And then when Adam McCulloch made it 2-0 in the second half, it was a great finish because it was a great touch by Adam. And he just looked at the goalkeeper, saw him in the middle of the goal and played it to the goalkeeper's left-hand side. He couldn't reach it because Adam hit it so well. And 2-0, you just think that's okay. But the thing is, when Adam scored, Foxdale were playing really well because whatever Anthony Corkle said to them, the manager, at half-time, come on boys, we can do this. They had belief in themselves and they had some chances, but McCulloch made it 2-0 and he just thought they're going to sink now, but it didn't happen. Second half substitute Charlie Harrison finished his goal really well. Good young player, Charlie, and then it was Liam Cannonball who got the second one, 2-2, and Dean Bettridge had a golden opportunity in the last minute. Young lad, goal in front of him, and unfortunately he just couldn't keep it on target, and the goal went. So Foxdale 2, Onken 2. Onken disappointed with the result, but I thought it was a fair result, and Foxdale still top of the table.
Very well. Then we have Ramsey Youth Centre and Old Boys meeting Maloo, and Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys coming out on top of this one. Another entertaining affair by the looks of it, at least. Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys 3, Maloo 2. Yeah,
good battle by the look of it. Jamie Brew on the score sheet again with 2 today. Well done, Jamie. Sean Crawley got the other one. Haven't got Maloo's goal scorers, 166 177 if you can, but that sort of helps Ramsey Youth Centre. It now puts them on 10 points, a little bit closer to Onken. They're only 5 behind them now, and the dreaded start of the season for Youthy, where they were really struggling, seems to have disappeared, and now they start putting the points on the board.
Then we had Jims and Douglas and District. The spoils shared today, 2 goals apiece, 2-2.
Yeah, 2-2. Matthew Keeman and Harry Wilson got the goals for Jims. Lewis Qualtrough got the first for D&D, and then Daniel Stewart Clegg got the second goal for D&D from the penalty spot. Point shared.
And lastly, in DPS Limited Division 2, Douglas High School All Boys hosting Pulrose today. Pulrose, it's been a difficult start to life this season in Division 2 for them. It's another tricky day for them today. Douglas High School All Boys 7, Pulrose 1.
It is, but they never give up, and everyone says that about Pulrose. And Brian Lowther got the goal for Pulrose. But what was interesting, I think we were about 10 minutes into this game, and I'd already had 3 phone calls to say that it was 3-0. So I don't know what happened the first 10 or 15 minutes because Old Boys were running riot. Craig Stewart got 4 of them. Callum Stewart got 1, and Jacob Stones got a couple of goals. Old Boys 7, Pulrose 1.
That's DPS Limited Division 2. Let's take a look into the Combination League, starting off with Canada Life Combination 1. Braddon versus Ayr United postponed today due to a waterlogged pitch. Laxey 1, St John's United 2.
Michael Fernandez, goal scorer for Laxey. Well done, Mike. And for St John's, I think Laxey were 1-0 up. Pedro Cardoza got one for the Johners, and Stephen Chadwick got the second.
And up in the north of the Balaclone Stadium, Ramsey versus Russian United. Well, Ramsey's combi team doing just what their first team did as well. They've taken victory today, 3 goals and 3 points. Ramsey 3, Russian United 2.
Yeah, there's a right battle going on, isn't there, in this Canada Life Combination 1, and it was Ramsey today who Russian flying last season, and this year I think that's their third defeat. Luke Roberts got 1, Lockie Denham got the second, but for Ramsey it was Cormac Smith with 1, Jack Gilbert got a goal, and Ryan Kelly got the other one. Good result for Ramsey.
And then out at Gary Moore, Union Mills 3, Peel 1.
Yeah, Union Mills keeping the pressure on. They're third in the league, played 8 for 17. And it was Jack Murray in the combination today. He got a couple of goals. Carl Uren got the other one. It was Sam Chapman who got the goal for Peel.
In the game over out in the west of the Island, Moran versus Douglas Royal. Moran following in the footsteps almost of what their first team did today. The first team getting 3 points, and Moran Combi also getting a big 3 points, and in some style as well today. Moran 7, Douglas Royal 1. Yeah,
a bit of a difference between the two teams in the league, because Moran are 7th, Douglas Royal are at the bottom, but Moran are on 12 points, and Douglas Royal are on 3, so there's not a lot between them, but Noah Dale Beaton got 2 goals for Moran. Ethan Riddy got 3, Bobby Thorne got 1, and Reece Westwell, cracker result for Moran, haven't got row scorer.
And then last but certainly not least in the footballing side of things today, DPS Limited Combination 2, Douglas Athletic 5, Michael United 2.
Richard Foden, a goal for Douglas Athletic. Graham Duggan, rolling back the years, he got 1 as well. Lee Ford wasn't going to be outdone by Graham, he got 2. And John McMullen got the other one. For Michael, it was Kyle Moore. And good to see Bailey Ashton back after his back injury. He got the other one for Michael.
And down in the south of the island, Castletown 3, Governors Athletic 1.
I haven't got Governors goal scorer, but for Castletown it was Mike Thompson and Cian Cottam and an own goal. The 3 goals for Castletown.
And Onken versus Foxdale, big win for Onken Combination in this one, beating Foxdale by 8 goals to 2.
Yeah, it is a huge win, and no doubt about it. The man who did all the damage today, Kieran Brown, he got 4. Billy Coulter got a goal. Joe Waddington got 1, and Lewis Dawson. For Foxdale, it was John Phillips and Josh Fairhurst who got the second.
We say that was a big scoreline. There was an even bigger one out in the south of the island between Maloo and Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys, and all in one direction as well. An emphatic victory for Ramsey Youth Centre Old Boys today, beating Maloo by 11 goals to 0.
Yeah, and it doesn't quite get them on the top of the table. They've joined Douglas High School Old Boys with 21 points, but still need another 10 goals to try and topple them off that perch. But Brandon Bignell got 3, Mark McClure got 1, Cross Crawford got a couple of goals, Ryan Quiggs got 2, Ricky Russell, Shkabuka got 1, and Joseph Delaney got the other one. That's a cracking result for Youthy.
Indeed, and finally today in DPS Limited Combination 2, Douglas and District 7, Gyms 2.
Yeah, and I think I've got the goal scorers for D&D if I can get them up, because it came in. There it is, I think it is. D&D 7, Gyms 2, 3-2 at half time. The goal scorers for D&D was Carl Clark with 1, Will Smith got 2. I'll never hear the end of this one. Mark Quirk got 4. That's Clark's first competitive goal for the club and Smith's first goals of the season. Thanks, Dave, for that. For Gyms, the goal scorers were Mackenzie Corkle and John Duke.
Well, those are the results today. Well, we'll be speaking in just a moment to Dave Christian to take a look at today's rugby results. But Tony, just one final question before we let you go for the evening. Something we caught up on a few weeks back, but maybe just to find a bit of an update, if indeed there is one. There were ideas mooted before the start of the season about a potential change in the league structure going forward. And at the stage that we last spoke, toward the end of August going into September, these were not official proposals, but they were circulated to clubs for clubs to give their feedback on. Has there been any progress on this particular concept at all?
Yeah, good progress. A lot of people talking. We need to find out the information. The good thing about it is that the decision to go for it or not will be by the clubs, which is good. But the League Management Committee met with one or two sort of people who we feel their clubs could find a problem or there might be a plus in there. And, there's lots of information come out. The next move now is for obviously the League Management Committee to sit down and speak to the Development Committee at the Isle of Man FA, and then we'll bring in everyone together in the room and just discuss it. There are some pitfalls. The big pluses is we're trying to increase participation. That's something that we can't gauge, Rob. That's very difficult to work that one out. We've got to be so careful, because if it's going to get altered, then we've got to make sure it's for the right reasons, and increasing participation is what it's all about. So it's going to be hard to sort of look at that, but we'll try anything. It's like anything. If you stand still, it might just sort of miss out on a few players, which we don't want to do that. But bit of work to do, but it'll probably go forward, I would think, as a possible change, maybe in March, and then the clubs will take the vote. So, it could go anywhere.
We'll wait and see. Tony Mepham, thank you very much, as always.
Manx Radio Sport.
Turning our attention to rugby now, and the big headlines going into the weekend with the Douglas and Vagabonds were returning to action in UK competition this weekend after a week off last time out. Meanwhile, it was the latest instalment of the Ravenscroft Manx Shield in the north of the island earlier today. Douglas in the Regional 2 Northwest, they were having a big task on their hands at the league leaders Birkenhead Park today. Vagabonds, who've had a great start to life already in the Counties 4 ADM Lancs Cheshire Division, up against a Blackpool side who were rooted to the bottom of the table, with Vagabonds out there to try and take maximum points today. And in the Ravenscroft Manx Shield, Ramsey up against the combined Isle of Man Barbarian side. Well, delighted to be joined now by our rugby correspondent Dave Christian, who can hopefully run us through the details. Dave, take us through what has been happening today in Manx Rugby.
Well, we start with the highest up in the pecking order, I guess. That's Douglas at level 6, Regional 2 Northwest. Lost 29-10 away at Birkenhead Park. Birkenhead Park are the joint leaders of the league. They are joint with Bowden. And unfortunately for Douglas, things don't get easier for them because they play Bowden next Saturday at Portachi. They will have home advantage, I guess, but the two teams at the top of the table back-to-back is not a nice way to begin November. 29-10 today. Sam McCord crossed for Douglas's only try of the game. Luke Hyland's boot kept them respectable with a penalty and a conversion, but sadly not quite enough against the team that are unbeaten. So only lost 1 in 7 so far this season, and Douglas's historic record against them, I think now is 2 wins from 9 meetings. So they're not full on bogey team, but they're not far away from it, I guess. The table does take a little bit of a shape, though, because wins elsewhere see Douglas drop a place to 9th, and it's very, very tight at that bottom end of the table. I think there's 4 or 5 teams all down there, and they're separated by only a few points. Vale of Loon, Liverpool, St Helens, Kirby, Lonsdale, Douglas and Winnington Park, 6 points separating those 5 teams. So things are getting a little bit competitive down there. Douglas with that tough fixture next week. And I think, Vale of Loon are down there at the bottom. I think they've got a home match against Whitchurch. They may or may not pick up points there. But Winnington Park away at Crewe and Nantwich, that's not going to... it's not going to disadvantage Douglas. Crewe and Nantwich are in 3rd place, so they're unlikely to lose at home against Douglas's nearest rivals. So, not a good day for Douglas, but it's not a bad result in terms of respectability. They weren't absolutely thrashed this afternoon, and 29-10 is fairly respectable, and I think they go into that Bowden game next week with a little bit of confidence. In Counties 4 ADM, you're quite right, Rob. Vagabonds' charge is continuing. 27-14, they won away at Blackpool. Cam Finley, Josh Moden and Daniel Bonwick all went over for tries for Vagabonds. Finley's boot added the rest in conversions. He had 3 conversions, a penalty and a drop goal, which I'm told he modestly described as majestic. The result leaves Vagabonds in 3rd place in the standings. 2nd place, Colden Nelson had a toughie this afternoon away at Birchfield, but they picked up some points there. They won away, but with no bonus point. And the gap between them and Vagabonds remains at 4 points, although Vagabonds do have 1 game extra played. I'm not sure how that's going to work out coming the end of the season, but Vagabonds there and thereabouts and really pushing hard at the top of the table. In the Ravenscroft Manx Shield, the Isle of Man Barbarians experiment kicked off this afternoon, and it wasn't that bad. They had some quality players in there, from Douglas, the likes of John Dutnell, who ran his legs off all game, never stopped. They had Harry Corran, who scored 3 tries this afternoon. We'll talk about that in a moment. And they really did cause some problems for Ramsey. After 20 minutes, the game was tied 5-5. Tom Dutnell's score for Barbarians cancelled out Eddie Platchey's opener for Ramsey, and that was on Eddie's senior debut, so congratulations to him for a good afternoon. Ramsey then ran away with the game for a short period in the first half. Tries from Nathan Robson, Brandon Atchison and Jake Richmond stretched that lead out, and as half-time was approaching, Conor McCucken and Harry Corran both went over for the Barbarians, with Jack Kane converting. Atchison then got his 2nd of the match just before half-time, which left Ramsey 38-19 in front at the break. In the second half, though, Ramsey started with real high pace. Jake Richmond scored 2 right after the restart. Brandon Atchison then ran in for 1. He completed his hat-trick, and there was also time for a score from Braden Roach. And by that stage, Ramsey were up to 62 points to 19 ahead. In the final 10 minutes, there were 2 big tries for Harry Corran. He scored his hat-trick and converted the last one himself as well for a 62-31 final score. Not a bad result. The Barbarians scored more than 4 tries, which means they're going to pick up a bonus point, and Ramsey will continue at the top of the table now, played 3, won 3, 100% record for them, and I think they've got a 10-point lead, although there are still quite a few matches to play in this competition, so nobody will be counting their chickens there. Congratulations to both sides for an excellent performance. It was cold, it was windy, but they threw that ball around, and 15 tries in the game tells you that it was a game of attack right from the very start.
OK, Dave, we'll just bring it back to Douglas's results at Birkenhead Park today. As you said earlier as well, the fact that many will consider this to be a very respectable result against a Birkenhead Park side who are doing extremely well in the Regional 2 Northwest as it stands so far this season. When we spoke on Friday Sport Preview yesterday, you mentioned that Douglas have some of the, in inverted commas, big 5 teams in this division coming up in the coming weeks, starting next with Bowden next time around. So what positives can Douglas take from this particular result, even though they've come away empty-handed?
Well, they can look at the table to start with, and the results last weekend, Birkenhead Park won 35-19 away at Crewe and Nantwich, and Crewe and Nantwich are in 4th place in the standings, and they're not going to be outside of the promotion stakes themselves. And 35-19, it's quite a big score, and Douglas, to go to Birkenhead Park, lose by 19 points, fair enough. They are the league leaders. They've only lost once this season. But that will really give Douglas a boost. And the performance they had against Burnage 2 weeks ago, they won 33-10 at Portashee. And that game, with Burnage in the top half of the table, or at least they were at that stage, Burnage themselves would have been thinking, we're going to pick up some points here at Douglas, who were a lot lower down the standings. And those games when you think you may just be able to sneak something if you have a bit of good luck, and then beating them by 23 points. And then you think, well, we're going to the league leaders this weekend, we're going to get absolutely slaughtered. And you get over there, and it's not that far away. And Phil Kringle said a couple of weeks ago, the Douglas coach, he said it's very easy to play well. It's much more difficult to win. So he's happy with the way that the team's performing, the way the individual players are putting in the effort. And he knows that with Douglas with 4 losing bonus points in the bag, You pick up a losing bonus point in this league, at least, if you finish within 7 points of the opposition. So Douglas, on 4 occasions, have already been within 7 points of one score of the teams that have beaten them. And, you take those 4 losing bonus points, you convert them into 4 wins, and all of a sudden Douglas are probably 4 wins from those bonus points, probably 4th, maybe 3rd. It's that close, the margins between winning and losing. So it is a very tight league. It's very tight at the bottom. It's also very tight at the top. And Douglas won't be embarrassed at all at losing to the league leaders by 19. And they'll fancy their chances against Bowden at Portichet. They've got home advantage. The visitors have got all the trials and tribulations that go with travelling. And head-to-head over the years, they've played Bowden quite a few times, 17 occasions. Douglas are ahead on the wins, 9-8, so it's that close. The last time they played was 11th of February this year. Bowden beat them by 10 points at Portichet. Previous to that, they beat them by 20-odd in November 2022, but Douglas won away at Bowden in February 2022. So, the playing record suggests that it could be quite a tight one next week, and despite Bowden's lofty position, Douglas have got a real good chance to pick up points at home.
And turning now to Vagabonds in the Counties 4 ADM Lancs Cheshire, as we've already alluded to, had a strong start to the season. When we spoke about this particular fixture away at bottom of the table Blackpool, you said that Vagabonds, if they've got ambitions to try and get promoted back into the step above, they have to start picking up maximum points against the bottom sides like Blackpool today. Francie Commission's the coach. He came in a tough situation last season, but Vagabonds starting to pick up points, and like you say, they've managed to meet those expectations today. Are we seeing a little bit of a different side to Vagabonds as it stands?
Yeah, I mean, the big difference came for them last year when Francie came in as coach mid-season. Then they managed to sign Daniel Bomwick just after Christmas. He's given them an out-and-out 10. Cam Finley was doing a cracking job in there, but Cam can play in multiple positions, and 10 isn't necessarily the one he's best in. They've been using him at full-back and wing as well. So having an out-and-out number 10 really gives them a little bit of focus. Bonwick's a great player. I've watched him since he was a junior coming into the Ramsey Seniors squad before he moved to Vagabonds, and he played in the Commonwealth Youth Games in 2011. I think he scored against Sri Lanka, I think, in the for the Isle of Man in the Youth Games. So he's a real quality player. He's not massive in stature, but he's strong, he's fast, he's physical, he's aggressive. He can kick, run and pass. He's got the full all-round game. That made a big difference for them. It gave them some impetus going forward. And that's been carried on this season. There's a couple of new players come into the side as well. Gavin Turnbull made his debut last week. They started him in the second row last week, and he's up in the back row. I've yet to see him play. Vagabond's next home match isn't now until after Christmas, I think. Yeah, 6th of January, the next home game against Ellesmere Port. So they've got an away trip to make before then. They go to league leaders Ashton-under-Lyne on the 9th of December. And I think they might well have a Cheshire bowl game in between now and then as well. And they've lined up, I think, a friendly match for Ramsey or Southern Nomads on the 18th of November too, just to keep them in touch and keep them ticking over in this little gap in the fixture list. It's a little bit difficult for Vagabonds this season. There's an odd number of teams in this league, which means everybody sits out. And Vagabonds have got this little gap there. It's an 8-team league, sorry. So you've only got 14 fixtures in total. There's 26 weeks in a rugby season. So they've got a number of blank weeks to fill in. So that's not going to help them, but the players will, of course, be well rested during that period. And if they can get a Cheshire Bowl game in and a friendly against Ramsey or Southern Nomads, that will keep them ticking over nicely. But the introduction of Bomwick last season sort of started to pick things up a little bit for them. And him playing, I mean, he wasn't there for the game against Birchfield. I think he was missing with a head injury, but he's back in now, and we always say at Ramsey after he left that he's worth 10 points. You have him in your team, he's worth 10 points for every game. And one player, when you're there and thereabouts, just one extra player who knows what he's doing can really make a big difference.
Dave Christian, as always, thank you very much.
Manx Radio Sport.
And finally this evening we turn our attention to Manx hockey and another break in the leagues this week because the competition has been intensifying in the Mixed Cup competitions again this weekend at the semi-final stage of the Mixed Cup, Mixed Plate and Mixed Bowl. And what's more, after a 2-week break over half-term, the Mixed Under-15s League returned to action this weekend as well. Bringing him in for the first time, as always, he's been waiting there very patiently for his time to shine. Ben Cunningham, very good evening to you.
Very good evening. Some cracking results. Let's go through them.
Indeed, let's go right into them. We'll start with the Mixed Cup semi-finals that took place today. The first of those pushing back today was at 12:35. That sees Valkyrie up against Castletown Celts. Both of them lost their respective games in midweek, but Valkyrie in particular still looking strong towards the top of the table at the moment. Finishing up, Valkyrie 3, Castletown Celts 3. Very entertaining game, but Valkyrie edging it on penalty strokes by 5-3, Ben.
Yeah, an absolutely fantastic game. Valkyries went out there and were 3-0 up, and then Castletown came from 3-0 down to get it back to 3-0 to take it to flicks. Absolutely incredible comeback from Castletown Celts, and they'll be disappointed they've lost on flicks, but it was absolute fantastic comeback they did. For Castletown, it was Macklin Wilson, Steve Ronan and Dulcie Tier, all with goals. And then for Valkyrie, it was Greg Miller, Ollie Webster and Jess Loader.
And although, of course, they were eventually the losing side today, as your predecessor Sam Spooner once said, never write off a Castletown team in Manx hockey.
Exactly. And there were people that were stood around me going 3-0, that's game over. And they were wrong.
They were indeed, they were wrong. And for Valkyrie as well, loss in midweek to Vikings A, with Vikings A now leapfrogging to the top of the Mixed Premier League. But for Valkyrie, a great result to bounce back with, and now with a chance this season of some silverware.
Absolutely, they'll be definitely looking ahead now to the final, because the team they lost to in midweek are not now in the final.
And that's the result we're going to go on to now, because the other semi-final in the Mixed Cup taking place today, also at the NSC, 2:05 pushback, the meeting of two Douglas rivals, Vikings A and Backers A. Vikings A moving to the top of the Mixed Premier League, as we said, in midweek with that win over Valkyries A, up against a Backers A side who, after a slightly slower start than usual, defending champions in the league, have started picking up results, and Backers have done the job today. They are through to the final. It finished Vikings A 3, Backers A 4, Ben.
Yeah, and Backers A came back 3 times in this game. They were 1-0 down, 1-1, 2-1 down, 2-2, 3-2 down, 3-3, and then they went and got the winner in the second half. An absolutely incredible game, end to end. Either team could have won it, and you could see how much effort and passion was put into the game, because at full time, when the whistle went, the Vikings players, they were on the floor. They just couldn't believe that they'd lost it by just a single goal. And I did say in my preview it could come down to just one little mistake or one piece of brilliance, and it did. For Vikings, it was Sarah Blackman, Kim Carney and John Ferrells. And then for Backers A, it was Callum Robb, Chris Whiting, Isabella Craig, and the winning goal was scored by Elliot Reid, which sets up the cup final, which is going to be Valkyries A against Backers A. And Valkyries A will probably look at this going, we've beaten Backers already, can we do it again and get the cup?
Wait, so we'll come back to that in just a couple of minutes as to who is making the finals on the 9th of December. But by the sounds of it, that second game as well as the first, great advert for mixed Manx hockey. Let's move into the Mixed Plate semi-finals. And this was the meeting in both semi-finals. The first of those between the bottom two in Division 1 at the moment. Valkyries C, second from bottom, against Castletown Camag's bottom of Mixed Division 1 at the moment. And Valkyries C with a convincing win here to get themselves through to the final, beating Castletown Camag 6-1.
Yeah, and I caught the end of this game, and I was speaking to people who'd been down watching it, and they said just Castletown had so many chances, they were just missing that final bit to get it in the goal. For Castletown, it was Alistair Ledgers with the consolation for Castletown, and then for Valkyries, it was Chris Thomas with 3 and Jules Collis with 3.
And in the other semi-final, it was the meeting of the top two in Mixed Division 1. They'd already had a very close encounter in the Mixed Division 1 in the league earlier in the season. Valkyries B against Castletown Southerners out at QE2 in Peel. And Valkyries B second in the league, Castletown top. And it's the team at the top of the league that's taken the spoils here to reach the mixed plate final. Valkyries B 0, Castletown Southerners 1.
Yeah, and in the league, it was 1-0. And today in the semi-final, it's ended 1-0. And Castletown Southerners, I'm sure at full time, were all gathered around and singing Ruby McCubbin's name, because she's the player that's got the goal, which has put them through to the final. Absolutely fantastic result for Castletown Southerners, and both reports I've had from that game were it was end to end, proper, full on, intense. It could have gone either way. Apparently, Valkyries had so many chances they just couldn't put them away. But on the day, Castletown Southerners have got the win and they're through to the final.
And that's what you want to see from a cup game particularly as well. Not that it isn't the case in league games, of course, but in cup games particularly, when it's all on the line for those 70 minutes, that's what you want to be seeing. And by the sounds of it, from the reports here you've been receiving, that was a great advert for cup competition in Manx hockey.
Absolutely, and you only need to look at the other results as well, the cup and then the bowl, which we're going to look at next. But all of the semi-finals have been so close, and it's great to see really good competitive cup action.
Well, then let's move on to the mixed bowl semi-finals. 11 pushback at QE2 in Peel saw a battle of the D teams. Valkyries D hosting a Vikings D side who have been extremely dominant in Mixed Division 2 so far this season, and they have added to that dominance so far this season by reaching the final of the mixed bowl as well. Valkyries D 1, Vikings D 3.
Yeah, and Katie Errols with 2, Adam Braywood with 1 for Vikings D, and then for Valkyries D it was Liam Harrison. Valkyries D will be disappointed, but again, another real close game, and both reports, again, it could have gone either way. Just Vikings D were more clinical today.
Seems to be the crucial thing, doesn't it? And in the other mixed bowl semi-final, 2 pushback up in the north of the island at Ramsey Grammar School. So Bacchus Colts up against Ramsey Ravens, and both these teams with a bit of a checkered run at the moment in terms of their league form. So maybe this could be the platform for something else. Bacchus Colts 1, Ramsey Ravens 1. So locked together after the allotted time, but Bacchus Colts winning on penalty strokes 3-1.
Yeah, and it was George Lease for Bacchus Colts and then Lewis Neal for Ramsey Ravens. But as you said, both of these teams have had the same season, and we did say in the preview that this game could potentially go to flicks or just come down to a single mistake, and it's gone to flicks, and Bacchus have gone through to the final where they'll meet Vikings D.
Well, we'll take a brief look at what the finals will entail in a few minutes. But of course, we had the return of the Mixed Under-15s League this week. After 2 weekends away because of the half-term break, let's take a look through the results there. We had 2 games pushing back at 12:35. We'll start with the one in the north of the island. Ramsey Rogues and Rascals up against Bacchus A, and a big win for Bacchus A today, beating Ramsey Rogues and Rascals by 11 goals to 1.
Yeah, an absolutely commanding result there for Bacchus A. Ryan Cartwright with 5, Callum Joyce with 3, Miles Stevenson with 1, Alice Kameen with 1, and Amelia Gledard with 1. And then for Ramsey Rogues and Rascals, the consolation was by Toby Bashford.
And in the other 12:35 pushback, much closer this one at Castle Russian High School between Bacchus B and Castletown Sabres. Bacchus winners here by 3 goals to 2.
Yeah, an absolutely great game there down at Castle Russian High School. I dread to think how cold it's been down there, Castle Russian, today. It was a bit nippy down the NSC where I was. Kieran Berry, Grace Taylor, and Amelia Krukel with goals for Bacchus B. And then for Castletown Sabres, it was Lola Hornby with both goals.
And the other 2 games were 2 pushbacks. Another at Castle Russian High School was Castletown Sharks up against Vikings. And a good result here for Castletown Sharks up against Vikings. Castletown Sharks winning by 3 goals to 1.
Yeah, great result there for Castletown Sharks. I know Vikings have got a lot of new younger players coming through their under-15s team, but they're getting the team out week in, week out, and you know, I've seen the Vikings under-15s team at the end of the game, and their heads are not down. You know, at the end of the day, they're glad that they're getting the games, and as today's proven, you know, they've gave Castletown a good game there. Charlie Volga with 1, Henny Cummin with 1, and Aline Moosley with 1, and then for Vikings, it was Henry Stewart with the goal for them.
And last but certainly not least, at 2:05 at QE2 in Peel, saw Valkyries versus Harlequins in the mixed under-15s league, and this looks like an entertaining game. 8 goals, but Valkyries edging this one by 5-3.
Yeah, great game this. Yet again, this proves just how good this under-15s league is, as well as what the cup games have been today. Caleb Blakemore with a hat-trick for Harlequins, and then Valkyries goal scorers was Amelia Dawn with 1, William Miller with 2, and Liam Harrison with 2.
Well, those are the hockey results today. So just for the last few minutes, we'll take a look at what awaits us, I suppose, in the Mixed Cup, Mixed Plate and Mixed Bowl finals taking place on the 9th of December. So still plenty of things to consider in the meantime before the games come around. But let's take a look at the final 2 remaining in the Mixed Cup. Valkyries A and Bacchus A. Valkyries A, a strong season for them so far, despite that loss in midweek that's seen them just drop back a little bit from the summit of the Mixed Premier League. And Bacchus A, the defending champions, after a slightly slower start, I suppose, by their very high standards, picking up some good results. First in midweek in the league, and then today up against Vikings A, who are leading the Mixed Premier League. A big result for Bacchus A. I mean, Ben, for different reasons and the different seasons they're having, this has the hallmarks of an extremely tight Mixed Cup final.
Absolutely, and once the results were in for both this game and for Bacchus A's game and Valkyries A's game, everybody was, as they were leaving the pitch, were going, that's going to be a very, very close final. And I'm sure it is going to be a really close final. Like you say, both teams have had such a great season. Obviously, Bacchus didn't get off to the best of starts, but their form's improved. However, Valkyries hadn't lost a game until midweek, and then they only just lost to Vikings A midweek 3-2. So that game's going to have a lot riding on it, and I know for sure that's going to probably be a really intense game.
And for the upcoming Mixed Plate final, that'll see Valkyries C second from bottom in Mixed Division 1 at the moment, up against Castletown Southerners, currently top of Mixed Division 1. Although there's gaps between these two sides in the table, when it comes to a cup final, all that goes to one side, and Valkyries, they put 6 past Castletown Camags today, so it was a clinical performance, despite the fact that Castletown Southerners may, at this stage, be going into that final in December as favourites. Valkyries C will surely go in with a lot of confidence, not just for getting there, but how they got there in today's semi-final.
Absolutely, and I mean, Valkyries have got 6 there today against Camags, and then Southerners just only got the 1 goal past Valkyries B. But as you say, league form is all out the window when it comes to cup competitions, because in the cup competitions, anything could happen, because as you know, some teams don't enter all their club senior teams because of availability, because once they're club tied to a team, they're not eligible then to play for another team. So it'll be really interesting to see how Valkyries come out against Castletown Southerners, whether they'll be stronger than their league team or whether they'll be just as good as their league team. But Castletown Southerners, as you say, would probably come into that one favourites.
And then looking towards the Mixed Bowl final as well on the same day, the 9th of December. Vikings D, who we've already mentioned, have a commanding position at the moment in Mixed Division 2 up against Bacchus Colts. Slightly different, I suppose, to the matchup as it stands between Valkyries C and Castletown Southerners in the Mixed Plate. Vikings D, solid in the league at the moment. They are the team to beat in that division at the moment. But Bacchus Colts, we have seen them, like Ramsey Ravens, who they played today, have come up with the goods on occasions and are capable of these big performances as well. So how important is it that Vikings D don't take this particular final lightly?
Quite very much. They need to make sure that they go out and play like they have all season. I mean, Bacchus Colts will be looking at it, because Vikings D, although they've been commanding and getting scoring loads of goals, they have been letting goals slip in. So Bacchus Colts will be looking at this going, right, is their defence a bit leaky in places, or is there a way that we can get through and find the Vikings goal? However, Vikings, though, they've had an absolutely brilliant season up front, scoring plenty of goals. I mean, I think there's about 3 Vikings players in that league that are all running for top goal scorer. So they've got an absolute powerhouse of strikers in that team. But as you say, when it comes down to a cup game, anything could happen. And I'm sure, like you say, Vikings D will be taking no risks in that game. They'll want the silverware.
That's the games today and looking forward. And we've got just a couple of minutes left. But Ben, I just wanted to get your thoughts on the news that came out yesterday with Manx hockey star Sienna Dunn being named in the England Junior World Cup squad. That tournament getting underway in Chile later this month. We've already seen Sienna Dunn's exploits in the England system at the moment. She's not just played for them, she's captained them on occasion. But how good is that for both Sienna Dunn and for Manx hockey as well, to see someone in an England squad at a Junior World Cup on a big stage like that?
Absolutely. It's absolutely phenomenal, and many congratulations, I'm sure, from, well, yeah, I speak on behalf of everyone probably from the island that plays Manx hockey. I'm sure they all want to pass their congratulations on to her. It's an absolutely fantastic achievement for someone to come from, as people say, such a small island, but it proves that we've got players that are quality, who've got the quality to go across and potentially be selected, and Sienna Dunn's gone and done that, and she's now been selected for, as you say, that tournament, which it's going to be a fantastic sight to see her play, and knowing that she's come from the Isle of Man and she's one of us.
Absolutely. Well, Ben, as always, an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much indeed for your time. That's all we have time for on Manx Radio Saturday Sport Classified this week. Thank you so much for joining us for all the results and analysis across Manx football, rugby and hockey across the Isle of Man and beyond today. We'll now be handing over to Christina Haven over on the Saturday Live Lounge back on our FM frequency. Thank you very much. Have yourself a wonderful Saturday night and have yourself a wonderful rest of your weekend as well. But from us, until next time, it's bye for now.
Manx Radio Sport.